So this brings us to the conclusion of the arguments for God's existence. Um, I hope you enjoyed them. I hope that they were convincing. I hope even if you didn't accept all of them or come to believe from watching this, it at least gave you some perspective as to why people do believe. And hopefully at least you thought that you acknowledge that belief is reasonable. That you're not stupid if you believe. Because often that's the biggest area is to go from thinking it's completely unreasonable to thinking it's reasonable. Um, to go from just disdaining and dismissing faith to acknowledging that it has some merit. That's often the biggest canyon. To go from believing in some sort of spirit to Christianity is not that big a gap. To go from Christianity to Catholicism is a very small gap. The biggest gap is belief versus non-belief, or and I mean that in the broadest sense, the belief in something. That's really what I'm trying to. I'm trying to argue for a deistic God, but really I'm just trying to argue for some sort of divine spiritual presence. Because once you believe in that, I think it's a lot easier to just accept Christianity. Just say, okay, that sounds good to me. That sounds what a all powerful being would be like. I don't really. It's a lot easier to go from A to B than to go from like O to B, if that makes sense. So let's just look at the arguments briefly. So we started out with the cosmological argument, and that was that God was the first cause of everything. And as he was the first cause of everything, he also designed the universe and made it possible for life to exist. Um, so God created the heavens and the earth, and he made it possible for life to exist. And he had to have done both because the universe, like everything else that must begin to exist, like everything that's physical, must have had a cause. And the universe does not have, there's no prior universe that we can know of, and the universe will not oscillate, it will simply end in heat death. So this is the only universe that'll probably ever exist. And the improbability of just things existing as they are now and of life forming and of just the fundamentally different nature of life as moving against entropy, of evolving, of changing, etc. Because of all of that, it points towards a creator. And then once we kind of accept that or don't, we go to the need for God for objective morality, um, to provide standards, to provide something beyond just subjective self-perception or subjective taste to explain what good and bad is. So from there we go to the beauty of creation, all the gorgeous things God has created, because indeed God is an artist and everything is part of his creation. And you can't, I think, help to but look at the beauty of the stars and of galaxies far away, and see in it the paint strokes of a creator. And we also talked about the problem of good, of the opposite of the problem of evil, and explaining all the good, beautiful things in the world and how that's problematic under pure materialism. So that leads us to degree, where just as we seek to create, we seek to be free, we seek love, etc. God seeks similar things, but to an infinitely greater degree, because he is the supreme mind, just as we are a more basic form of it. Then from there we go to necessity, meaning, and universality, where we looked at the necessity of God for a functioning of society and for society to have a character and structure. The necessity of God to the individual meaning in a human life and the meaning of a society, and that this is a universal religion in of itself, and spiritual belief is a universal phenomenon existing in all peoples, all cultures, and all societies. Then finally, we ended off with arguments from authority, where we looked at historically some of the smartest people who believed in God. Um, and I just was trying to go against the trope that only dumb, crazy people believe in God by showing some of the great minds of history and how important faith was to them. So, in summary, no argument on its own will be convincing. Some might. For me, the cosmological argument I think is airtight. I think it pretty much is very difficult to dismiss. I think it's the best explanation. It alone would convince me. The moral argument alone would probably convince me, but you're not me. So maybe, hopefully, a couple of these arguments will at least be somewhat convincing. A little convincing, I mean it'll go from like impossible to possible, maybe. So hopefully, altogether, they present a compelling case, and you can kind of see what I mean by the cumulative proof, like how they support each other, how they help each other out, etc. But bear in mind, you don't have to be 100% convinced. I mean, no one's really 100% convinced of anything. You're not 100% convinced you love your parents. You're not 100% convinced you love your children. Everyone has moments of doubt. Everyone has emotional moments where they just don't feel like doing things a certain way. Everyone has moments where, I don't know, they just want to gun down a bunch of people because they're angry, or they have moments of despair, or they're hungry or tired or something, and they just want to lie down and give up. I mean, it's emotional changes and feelings going awry are a basic part of being human. So you don't have to be 100% convinced to be religious or to believe. There is an element of a leap of faith here. But I'm telling you, if you're going to make a leap of faith, make an informed leap of faith. And Pascal says before you make a wager, make sure it's an informed, intelligent wager, and you've weighed the evidence. But many saints, and don't let doubt dissuade you. Don't let yourself go, well, I'm not going to be completely committed to this. I'm going to still have my doubts, etc. Well, most saints did. It's very common. Some saints went through decades, through something called the dark night of the soul, where they went through decades of feeling empty, of not feeling any religious feeling in their hearts, of feeling like God had abandoned them. I think Mother Teresa did for like 30 years, and she suffered horribly through it. So, like Peter, the founder of the Catholic Church, he denied Jesus 3 times, and God was standing there in front of him, and he denied him. It's not really a problem. Faith is a journey. Faith is a process. Um, Faith is something very difficult, and it takes a long time to grow. It's a seed you plant. Ultimately, though, all faith begins with a choice. All faith, let's see here. As Thomas Aquinas would say, faith is ultimately an act of will. We ultimately choose whether we're going to believe or not. That's not to say evidence and reason are important. That's not what I'm saying. But much like anything else, you choose to believe in something or you don't. You look at the evidence, you weigh it, and you make a decision. Um, I think love is a lot like that too. I don't think love is just something that happens. I think you do choose to be in love with someone. That's not to say there isn't a rational reason for loving someone. That's not to say that there isn't a ton of factors which influence it, but ultimately it's something you have to make a choice on. And people say, well, you're just telling people to believe. Well, yeah, I guess I am, but I offered a bunch of arguments and a bunch of what I thought was pretty decent evidence and logic. Maybe I'll revise some parts of this series at some point. But for the moment, I think I did a pretty good job considering the resources and time I had to put into this. If you want me to address any other arguments or post some supplementals or stuff like that, feel free to ask and I'll do it. This is kind of my passion. All men must serve, and this is my way of serving God. So yeah, ultimately, you have to choose or not. For some people, they will have a personal experience, and for them, it's just settled. I've heard stories where agnostics have seen a statue of the Blessed Virgin, and they look her in the eye, and then they're just converted on the spot, and their heart completely changes. And that's not that uncommon, but for the rest of us who don't have that sudden experience, that rapture, it's up to us, for good and bad. Ultimately, I think you have to make a decision. You have to either choose to believe in something or reject it. I don't think agnosticism is a tenable long-term position. So examine your conscience, your reason, do your own research. I'm not telling you to just blindly believe in something, but really, really think about it. Give it a fair hearing, and then make a decision. You have to make it eventually, or time will make it for you. In the end, the clock takes all. So don't let having doubts block you from believing. I know I still have my doubts. I'm not perfect. I may sound like I've been through all of this, and I know all kinds of other stuff about apologetics and philosophy and etc. And I still have doubts, and I still have bad feelings. It's a natural part of being a human. It's nothing to feel ashamed of. So that's the series. I'll start working on arguments for Christianity, which will probably be longer and more non-linear and a bit messier than this, but I hope you enjoyed it. God bless you all. This is Argent Templar signing out.